All right, so our lesson. I'm going to do both of the lessons on the same recording. So both of these next pages are going to be on the same recording. So solve each given equation for the variable. So we're going to figure out what these variables or these letters equal. So we don't know. It's not too bad. It's pretty easy. Do you remember our order of operations? Let me write them down here. Our order of operations, if we had, please excuse my dear Aunt Schnaterbeck, PEMDAS. Remember that we had multiplication and division. We went from left to right, and we had addition and subtraction. We went from left to right. They were paired because they're opposites of each other. Opposites are called the reciprocals, the opposite, the reciprocal. So the reciprocal, or the opposite of multiplication is division. Same thing with division is multiplication. Same thing with addition and subtraction. They're opposites of each other. So if we take a look over here, we have 13 plus x equals 27. Yes, we can say, okay, well, 13 plus 14, 15, 16, we can count, but there is an easier way. We can, instead of adding, so this is adding, so we're 13 plus that x equals 27. The opposite of adding, since there's nothing in front of that 13, it's positive. Since we're adding, we're going to do the opposite. The opposite is going to be subtraction. So we're going to do minus 13 on both sides. So you're going to put minus 13, minus 13. All you have to do is that little minus 13 and then minus 13. When you do that minus 13, it gets rid over here. Because if you do 13 minus 13, you're back at 0. You're back clean slate. So then we have x left by itself on this side, which is perfect. That's what we need. We need to figure out what x's identity is. So when we do 27 minus 13, I know that 7 minus 3 is going to be 4, and 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. So our answer here is x equals 14. You can check that if you want and do 13 plus 14, and if that gives you 27, yes it does, then we are correct. Let's take a look down here. So that's it for your answer up there. Let's take a look down here. So we have a number n plus 13 and 75 hundredths equals 25 and 46 hundredths. Well, the opposite of adding is going to be subtracting, just like what we did. So we're going to subtract 13 and 75 hundredths. If we do that to one side of the equal sign, we have to do that to the other side. So we have to subtract 13 and 75 hundredths from this side as well. Now, this does give us a clean slate here. So we have n left. So this n is left, and that's going to equal whatever this equals. So we're going to do 25 and 46 hundredths minus 13 and 75 hundredths. So 6 minus 5, I know, is 1. 4 minus 7 we cannot do, so the 5 becomes a 4. To make this 4 a 14. 14 minus 7 is going to be 7. Drop that decimal like it's hot. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So our answer here is 11 and 71 hundredths. Look at this. We're doing super good. Super well. All right. I also don't mind if you use a calculator just to get the hang of it. Just to start. Just to start. All right. Now, we've got something over here. Oh my goodness, what does that mean? When you have a variable right in front of, or right after a number, so if you have a number right in front of a variable or a number right in front of a letter, that means multiply. So that means 4 times x. So what is the opposite of multiplying by multiplying? Well, dividing. So we're going to divide. You can drag this division up here if you want, because we're going to divide both sides by 4. Divide by 4. Now, when you have 4 divided by 4, that equals 1. So we're left with just one of those x's, so we just are left with that x on one side. On the other side of our equal sign, we have 12 divided by 4. Well, 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. So that means 4 times 3 is going to be 12, and yes, it is. 4 times 3 is 12. All right, now this one gets a little bit more tricky. Yes, we're multiplying here again. So we are going to have to do the opposite, which is dividing. So we're going to divide by 3 2/10 on both sides. Now, I will let you use a calculator for this one. That cancels out to leave it as that letter D for dog. So there's just one of those D's. And we're going to divide 12 and 8/10 divided by 3 2/10. And we're going to get the number 4. So D is going to equal 4. And if you do check it as 3 2/10 multiplied by 4, you will get 12 8/10. Perfect, perfect. That's it for this part. Let's go ahead on to the next one. So remember, we're going to do both here. So this next one, we're going to solve this for the given variable. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. So we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. Minus 9. That gets rid of that. So we're left with dogs equals, so what that letter D equals is going to be whatever 25 minus 9 is, which should be 16. You can also do, okay, 5 minus 9, you can't do. The 2 becomes a 1, 5 becomes 15. Minus 9, you get 6. Bring down the 1. So dogs, or D, is going to equal 16. Now, same thing, opposite of adding is going to be subtracting. We are going to subtract both sides. 13 2/10 minus 13 2/10. So we're left with F equals, if we subtract here, 9 minus 2 is going to be 7. Drop down that decimal like it's hot. 8 minus 3 is going to be 5. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So our answer here is 15 7/10. Alrighty, now we're left with multiplication. Ooh, we can do that. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. Because what you do to one side of that equal sign, you have to do to the other. So if we divide by 2 on both sides, we're left with that y. Oops, sorry, that should be y. That y equals 30 divided by 2 is going to be 15. 15. All right, and then 8x equals 64. And we are going to have dividing by 8 on both sides. Divide by 8. I know 64 divided by 8, so x, sorry, this should be x. 64 divided by 8 is going to be 8. Because I ate and I ate till I got sick on the floor. 8 times 8 is 64. And that is it for our lesson. Great, great, great job.